Hi there, welcome to Nonsense Whisky. My name's VinPF, and on today's episode we're going to be covering something which the YouTube algorithm is not going to like at all in the UK, and that's the Knob Creek Kentucky Straight Bourbon. I should explain, in America, knob isn't a particularly offensive word, but in the UK it's a kind of a poor slang word for a man's nether region. So I'm sure in the UK the algorithm on YouTube is going to go nuts, but never mind, I think it's worth covering, and definitely a good look into some more Beam Suntory whiskies anyway. It's obviously a bourbon, Kentucky bourbon. This one in particular is presented at 50%, so it's not the kind of average 40%er. Nice, good increase in that. This particular one has caused a little bit of controversy throughout the forums recently, maybe in the last couple of years, because until recently it was a 9-year age statement. This is the small batch. This one, however, is the new no age statement. If you can see on there, it now says patiently aged instead of 9 years. And that's essentially a stock thing, right? So it's, if they carried on releasing the 9 years, then they would eventually run out and there would be a shortage of Knob Creek around the world. So they decided to pull the age statement. They're still putting 9 years and above into this, but it's being mixed with much younger spirits, maybe 4 or 5 years, something like that. And now they can obviously no longer call it a 9-year spirit, and instead of calling it a 5-year spirit, they're just calling it a no age statement, so they can basically do whatever they want. Now, most people don't like that sort of thing. They don't like the change, but in my head, it's a survival tactic. There's so many people drinking whiskey right now that it's impossible to plan that many years ahead. They already are, the stuff they're putting into casks right now. It's hard to say in 9 years' time whether we'll all still be drinking bourbon or not, or if it will be doubled. Who knows? But it's an interesting question about no age statements, whether they're important or not. It will continue to be controversial throughout the spirits world. Nobody likes to see their favourite whiskies disappearing or getting younger or changing or whatever. But today's video is strictly about this one, not the old one. So let's get into the nose and see what's going on. Back in the old British Bourbon Society glass. Again, as always, not affiliated with them, but if you have the inclination, go and check them out on Facebook. Excellent group. Now, on the nose, it's huge amounts of oak. Huge amounts of oak. Loads of vanilla, more caramels. It's a very typical smelling bourbon. It's not particularly different to other Beam Suntory offerings or other bourbons generally. It's a classic bourbon nose. Let's try on the palate. Now, for me, the 50% doesn't make too much difference. I'm glad that it's in there. I would dread to think what this would taste like at 40%. I imagine if it was at 40, I would be wishing it was higher. So I'm very happy about it, but it's not an in-your-face 50% for sure. There's definitely a lot of spice there, a lot of oak influence. It's quite sweet, a lot of caramels, but it's not like a real punch in the face with ABV, which is good. I like that. The finish is pretty good as well. Lots of sweet flavours going through, lots of caramels. Quite spicy, I would say medium to long. And there's kind of a drying element to it as well. It's not a particularly bad taste by any means. If anything, it makes you reach for the glass again to get rid of that dryness. But all over, it's an excellent whiskey, I think. In the UK, it's roughly 25 to 30 pounds. So we're getting on for kind of $35 to $40, maybe a bit less depending on the conversion. Now I know in America you can get that a lot cheaper, but for us, it's a good price for a bourbon. We can go and get normal Jim Beam white label for something like £15, but for me, the extra that makes this a little bit more premium is kind of worth paying. I really like it. I was lucky enough to get given this for my birthday, and I'm gonna love that, and I think I might even replace it when it's gone. I don't often say that about whiskies, but it's just a really nice entry level to kind of premium bourbons. That's the best way of describing it, I think. If you're into your kind of basic bourbons and you want to step up, this is one of those whiskies that will do that. And again, if you're in America, I'm sure it's cheaper than that. So just let me know in the comments what you think about this whiskey. I'm sure there's going to be some contention about the no age statement on there, but I'd love to know what you guys think about that, because it's an interesting subject. I haven't tried the 9-year-old version of this, so I can't say if it's better or not. All I can say is that Fred No, the master distiller at Jim Beam, has categorically said that he will never let it go out under the Knob Creek name if it isn't Knob Creek, and I think that's pretty fair. It's hard to say in 9 years' time whether we'll all still